Welcome back to the Explainer. Okay, today we're diving into something that literally claims to be the ultimate shortcut for launching digital products. Now, if you're a digital entrepreneur, you already know the drill, right? Building a scalable side hustle takes a massive amount of heavy lifting. But we're going to unpack some source material today about a brand new toolkit that argues, well, it argues you can just skip the hardest part of that process entirely. Let's get into it.
So, I want to kick things off with a quick question for you. What is the single biggest bottleneck for a digital entrepreneur? Seriously, think about it for a second. You've got the ambition, you've got the platform set up, maybe you've even nailed down your perfect target audience. But then you sit down at your computer, you stare at that blinking cursor of doom, and boom, you just hit an absolute brick wall.
And the answer, for almost all of us, is writing high-quality content from scratch. Actually, scratch that. It's not just writing. It's researching and writing genuinely helpful, psychology-based self-help content. That can take weeks, honestly, sometimes months. And this massive hurdle, it's exactly why the source material notes that so many brilliant side hustles stay perpetually stuck right there in the planning phase. But the source material presents a very specific solution to this exact bottleneck. It's called the MindForge PLR Empire Core Edition. And what's interesting here is how it frames this. It's not just a quick file download. It's presented as a tangible toolkit designed for entrepreneurs to bypass that grueling research phase entirely. Theoretically, this gives you back your time so you can actually focus on what matters, marketing and distribution.
Okay, let's dive into this. If you've been in the digital product space for a minute, you probably have some healthy skepticism about PLR, or private label rights content. We all know the stereotype. It's robotic, unformatted, generic fluff. But the documentation here draws a really sharp contrast. It claims this specific toolkit provides high-grade raw material. We're talking actual psychology-based Q&A that is beautifully formatted and genuinely ready to publish right out of the gate.
And looking at the scope of this toolkit, the sheer volume is pretty wild. Inside, the source lists over 1,000 psychology Q&A assets. Yep, over 1,000. We aren't just talking about a handful of quick blog posts. These are spread out across 50 everyday self-help categories. So topics like anxiety, habits, burnout, procrastination, and confidence. The whole goal is to provide this massive library addressing the practical stuff audiences are actually actively searching for right now. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the underlying structure. You know, most PLR packs just hand you a list of questions with absolutely nothing underneath. But the source highlights that MindForge breaks down every single one of its 1,000+ assets into a unique 3-part format. You start with the question, then you get a therapist-style guided insight, and finally a practical reflection exercise. This specific architecture is meant to transform what would be a basic piece of text into a truly interactive coaching tool. To really see how this works in practice, let's look at a sample they provided from the analysis paralysis module. The prompt asks, what specific fears or doubts tend to freeze you when you face an important decision? Then, the guided insight unpacks how paralysis often stems from a fear of making the wrong choice. Finally, the reflection exercise asks the user to list their top 3 fears and the evidence supporting them. The material presents this as highly empathetic and, more importantly, immediately useful for the reader. Here's another great case study, this time from the burnout module. It asks, what early signs of burnout do I tend to overlook until they become overwhelming? You see, the therapist-style writing here is designed to prompt real, actionable reflection for the end user. By asking them to track moments of fatigue or frustration over a week, the content totally shifts from fluffy inspiration to practical framework building. Now, here is an absolutely crucial caveat, and this is echoed by reviewers across the digital product community. This toolkit is intended as a powerful foundation, not a finished product. The source emphasizes that the real value is generated when you rebrand it and inject your own unique perspective. Taking this pre-written psychology content and molding it to fit your highly specific audience, that is the recommended strategy for turning these assets into a truly viable business. And this brilliantly illustrates the core concept behind unrestricted PLR rights. As an entrepreneur, the documentation notes you have total creative freedom. You can add your own title, change the cover, insert your author name, or modify the text directly in the docx files. You could even break the 1,000 entries into 50 mini products, or bundle them all together for a high-ticket offer. The whole idea is that you have full ownership to shape the material however you want. Because you have that level of freedom, the suggested monetization methods are just vast. I mean, you can spin these into full ebooks or printable Etsy workbooks. You could use them as lead magnets to build your list, or break them down into literally a year's worth of social media posts and email sequences. The source even suggests launching on affiliate networks, publishing guided journals, creating direct coaching resources, building Canva templates, or you could even just resell the PLR rights entirely. To actually make all those different business models feasible, the toolkit uses a dual format delivery system. On one hand, the HTML files are designed to be beautifully formatted, essentially Canva quality, meaning they're ready to publish immediately or save right as a PDF. But alongside that, the docx files are fully editable in Microsoft Word or Google Docs. This split ensures creators get to choose between speed to market or total ground-up customization. The source material also pulls back the curtain to show who created this. Web Magnus, operating under the Tech Magnus umbrella. In the digital product community, they're positioned as creators who focus heavily on evergreen niches. So they're known for building resources designed to have a long shelf life, rather than just chasing those quick 30-day trends. Now, looking at the official timeline data, the launch date for the MindForge PLR Empire Core Edition is set for May 30th, 2026. The promotional material highlights this as a highly strategic window. It gives entrepreneurs a chance to grab the toolkit and prepare their rebranding strategies early, well before the wider market gets crowded. Let's break down the estimated value here, because developing over 1,000 professional entries from scratch is an incredibly heavy lift. If you've ever paid a professional copywriter, you know that alone can easily run around $5,000. Add in the psychology research, the expert editing, and the honestly tedious process of formatting hundreds of files properly, plus an unrestricted PLR license, the source estimates the total development value at nearly $10,000. But here's where it gets wild. Contrasting that 10 grand estimated value, the actual listed price for the core edition library is $6.99. $6. The strategy presented here is that because you, the entrepreneur, keep 100% of the profits, selling just one single rebranded workbook turns an immediate profit. It completely flips the traditional risk-to-reward ratio of product development on its head. Oh, and the creators also outline a 30-day money-back guarantee, essentially reversing whatever tiny risk is left. They state it's a hassle-free, no-questions-asked refund policy. If the quality doesn't match the promise the second you open the files, you get your money back. So the heavy lifting of research and formatting is supposedly done. The psychology frameworks are already built. The only question the source leaves the entrepreneur with is, what will you build first? But, it also raises a much bigger, perhaps even more fascinating question for the entire creator economy. Are pre-built toolkits like this the inevitable future of digital side hustles? Or is the true value still entirely dependent on the unique voice of the creator? Something to think about. Thanks for tuning into this explainer.